Hello again. Today I'd like to say a little bit more about communicative competence and what communicative competence in a foreign language entails. I'd like to identify 5 strands of communicative competence that are important in teaching and that will help, I think, help you understand what the differences are between a basic, intermediate, and advanced level speaker. These are accuracy, fluency, complexity, appropriacy, and capacity. Now, let's look at each of these in turn. Accuracy is pretty easy to understand. That's the capacity to use language in ways that are grammatically and phonologically appropriate, to use the correct grammar, the correct syntax, the correct pronunciation. And we're all very familiar with ways of developing accuracy. Fluency, of course, is the ability to be able to keep the flow of communication going, to use your language resources, to avoid communication breakdowns. Fluency. Complexity refers to the extent to which your language has developed. Is your vocabulary expanding? Is your knowledge of the grammar expanding? Are you using language that's more complex than the language you were using 2 years ago? Complexity. Appropriacy refers to the ability to use language, to vary your use of language according to the context. When do you say good morning? When do you say hi? When do you say get me a glass of water? When do you say I wonder if you would mind getting me a glass of water? So appropriacy refers to the ability to be able to vary your language, reflecting differences in the situation in which you're using it. The last strand I call capacity, perhaps communicator capacity. How much can you express in what you know of a language? What range of topics can you talk about? How much can you say about them? What sort of depth do you have in terms of the ideas and concepts and topics you can talk about? That's what I mean by communicative capacity. My own language knowledge in the languages that I speak has fairly restricted communicative capacity. I speak Indonesian and French, but in fairly restricted context. So I'm not a good example really here of what I'm talking about. But I hope your learners will be more successful than I have been in that area of language use. So accuracy, fluency, complexity, appropriacy, and communicative capacity. Different kinds of language teaching activities are good for different purposes. Sometimes you might do an activity that's good for accuracy, another one for fluency. You might come back at a later stage and work on something that's good for appropriacy, perhaps something that's good for complexity. In other words, getting students to try to revise what they have said, but say it in a more complex way, using new language, using different grammatical structures, and so on. And capacity, the ability to go into topics, to explore issues and topics and talk about them, and expand one's knowledge of vocabulary and the language resources that one uses to do so. So I'd like to leave you with those ideas to think about those 5 strands of communicative competence that you might think about when you're planning lessons or looking at your teaching materials. To what extent are you giving your students the opportunity to develop accuracy, fluency, complexity, appropriacy, and capacity in their English language learning?